But the bottom line is that the money that's being made with these attacks is great. And almost nobody is getting caught. Because most of these attacks are never reported to the police. Even if they are reported to police, they typically won't investigate. Even if they investigate, they typically won't find anybody to prosecute. Even if they find somebody to prosecute, he's far away in another country under different legislation, it's very hard. If they manage to get him to court, he typically doesn't get sentenced. So very few of these guys actually get caught. So if the money is good and nobody gets caught, is this problem going to get better or worse? It's going to get worse. It's going to get much worse. So how good is the money? I'd love to see international statistics on just how much money is being lost to online crime, but I haven't seen such statistics compiled by anybody. But we have a couple of points. 2006 in United Kingdom, according to APAX, which is the UK Banking Association, UK banks lost £12 million to phishing attacks, which is a lot of money, but I think that's still pretty small to the global picture. Another example, the local police operating in Sao Paulo in Brazil has been tracking several of the banking Trojan gangs that operate in Brazil. They've done at least 4 big busts of these criminal gangs. The last big bust they did involved arrest of 30 guys and the leader of the gang. The leader was 19 years old. And according to the Brazilian police, these guys had stolen $110 million before they were caught. Guess how they were caught? They were caught because of their lifestyle change. Because these were kids from the slums. And suddenly they were buying Bentleys and Mercedes-Benzes and Harley-Davidsons and throwing huge parties. No wonder they got caught. Well, if you go back to spam for just a moment, it still is a problem. And it still works, which is the surprising part. People still buy from spam, which just doesn't make any sense to me. You people, you've got to stop this. Stop buying from spam, because we're never going to get rid of the problem as long as there's some sucker somewhere who actually reads the messages, clicks on the links, and buys the Viagra, or buys the whatever they're trying to sell. And you would think that nobody does this anymore, but if you look at statistics, you see sizable portion of people admitting that they've at least once bought something from spam. And I read earlier this year the most fascinating book. The book was called Inside the Spam Cartel. This is a book written, as you might guess, by a spammer. A spammer who didn't write the book with his real name, he wrote it under an alias of Spammer X. And in this book he explains about his life as the spammer, about how he works, where he collects the information, where he gets the email addresses, what kind of tools he uses, and so on. And on page 131 of this book, he lists this chart where he discusses about his spamming successes, about different products he's been spamming about, which include Viagra clones and access to casino websites and debt consolidation and others. And when he was spamming 1 million spams a day with a reply rate of only 0.0001%, he was still making thousands of dollars every day by sending spam. Don't get me wrong, I'm not recommending this line of business for anybody. Spam is bad enough as it is. But spam works. No wonder it is still going around. A few words about Stormworm, which is probably the most active gang operating right now, the gang behind Stormworm. Stormworm isn't really a worm. It originally got this nickname when this first outbreaks of this worm, or of this spam bot, or spammed bot, or spam Trojan were located earlier this year. The first emails that were sent out by this gang were using news headlines as the lure to get people to click on the attachment. And the first news headline they used were news headlines about a big storm, what was raging in Europe at the time. And they were sending emails which said that the storm had gotten worse and thousands of people had died, which wasn't true, but it was a good headline, especially when people knew that the storm was really raging in Europe at the time. They've been changing tactics frequently ever since. They keep trying different ways of sending stuff out and getting people to click on the attachment or get people infected otherwise. In the early days, they were only using attachments, like exes or zipped exes that people will have to click on. But then they've been changing tactics to something more clever. Like we've recently seen lots of cases like this, where they're sending an email which looks like it's coming from someone, and it's an e-card. You have an e-card waiting for you, please click on the link. And there's a website link which points to a website with no host name, just an IP address. And if you actually go there to that site, there is a website waiting for you which says that, no, sorry, you can't see this e-card that you have received from a family friend because you don't have the necessary components. You need Microsoft Data Access, which actually is a real component from Microsoft. But the component they offer you to download here nicely for free isn't that component from Microsoft. It actually is, of course, the Stormworm malware itself. If you actually download it and click on it, you get infected. The same technique has been varied in multiple different ways. They have different emails and different website messages. And the amount of websites they have, these IP addresses, is in tens of thousands, if not even higher. And those of you who were following Lance's presentation about fastflux and the botnet, this is a related technique, except it's not, because they're not using host names. What makes fastflux is the fact that they are having a large amount of name servers and unique host names. They are pointing to different IP addresses. These guys are dropping the host name part out of it already. They just have large enough pool of IP addresses they can point to. But then from that point on, it's the same logic. They have proxies on these machines, which then move the traffic to the real mothership website, which offers then the website content and the actual malware download. Another example, my ex-boyfriend took these of me in bed. Do you think he misses me? Like, it sounds like pictures. You follow the link, you again get to a website, or you get an email which has a YouTube link, except the link only looks like it's going to YouTube. It really goes, again, to an IP address page. And when you follow the link, it looks like YouTube, but it's not YouTube. Your download should begin shortly, and it will offer a video.exe for you to download. We saw these 2 days ago. Labor Day is a big holiday in USA. I think it's this weekend. Lance, Labor Day? It was Monday, okay. Well, these started on Monday. Explains to me now. So during the holiday in USA, they started changing the website to look like this. It says, Happy Labor Day. Click on the image, download the file, and press run. And again, they were claiming these are e-cards. And I actually did some digging. This picture, they didn't draw the picture. This is a picture written by a US artist called Clay Bennett. And I actually sent him an email yesterday informing illegal use of his picture. Perhaps he can do something to get this shut down, because apparently no one else is able to shut down Stormworm gang's operation. So okay, these guys built a big botnet with these malware. But what exactly are they then doing with the botnet? Well, we believe they're using it to send spam. Once again, spam, which has been around for so many years and still continues to be cash cow for guys like these. These guys have been sending spam in many different ways. We believe they have been involved in many of the big image spam runs. And of course, image spam is spam which is not text, it's an image. So it's harder to filter these spams out with spam filters that look for keywords or are based on text. So if it's a GIF file or a JPEG, which is embedded in the email, you can read it and I can read it. But spam filters, traditional spam filters, can't read what it says. And then, because they have a botnet at their disposal, they can actually afford the processing power to modify the image every time they send it. So the image is not twice the same. They modify it by adding colors and dots. If you look carefully, these dots here are not dust in the Hack in the Box video. It's actually in the image itself. And these are in different locations, in different images. We also believe they've been involved in other spam scams. The spam is evolving as well. For example, you get an email like this from someone you don't know, but he's sending you a zip file. And you open up the zip file, there's a TXT file inside. I wonder what's this. And you open the TXT file and it's spam. Please buy this stock. And again, the TXT file is unique. There's a unique number on top of the text file, which is inside the zip file. So the CRC, or hash, of the file changes every time. Again, you can see how this could be a problem for traditional spam filters, which are trying to look at text. There's no text here. There's a zip file, which contains the spam. Or PDF spam, which is nasty, because you get an email like this, you don't really know whether this really is for you. if some business partner is sending you some report, because there's no text, there's just a PDF. Technical analysis. I wonder if this is related to the project. I got to look at it. You open it, it's spam. Please buy Viagra. Please get cheap mortgages, whatever. And even more clever, FDF files. FDF is forms data format, which is sort of part of the Acrobat setup in PCs. The bottom line, you click on it, it's just a PDF file, but it uses a file format and an extension which is unfamiliar to almost anybody. I never had heard about this until we started seeing spam in the FDF file format. And then messages like this. A secure personal message for you in an RTF file. Well, this probably is something very important. I better have a look at it right away. And you open it, and it's future orders about medication, medical prescriptions from Index ED Products, certified wholesaler of Viagra. Spam, spam, spam. And I think the most interesting phenomenon we've seen on this side lately has been the emergence of 3D spam. 3D spam, which is image spam, which has been rendered with some sort of graphical filter to be in a 3D mode. You see? It looks like Star Wars, or something like that. It's viewed from an angle. Again, every single spam has a different image in different angles. And you see how this could be problematic for image filters trying to read and understand what it says on this image. It's easy for us to read it and understand it because we can decode that, but computers can't. It's hard. But of course, it's going to be very, very processor intensive to render a different 3D image spam for every recipient, right? That would be a problem, except it isn't. Because these guys, they have the processing power. They have a botnet of perhaps hundreds of thousands of computers around the world, which, if you just combine the processing power and memory, that's a supercomputer. There was a post on full disclosure mailing list earlier this week where somebody did the math. And the Stormware botnet probably is the world's fastest supercomputer. So certainly they have the processing power to render 3D spam for every single recipient. No problem. Just makes you wonder what else they could do with the processing power they have at their hands. Phishing has been around. It's not likely to go away, but it's unlikely to get much worse either. I think we've seen the peak of phishing as a problem. The traditional mechanisms where you get an email which directs you to a website which looks like a real website and asks you for your credentials, sure, it is a problem. And for example, as you can see here, it looks real, but the domain isn't actually real. It says Pay Mr. Pal, which has nothing to do with PayPal, but it looks fairly realistic. Why isn't this going to get much worse? Because although people never learn, some of them do. People eventually learn, at least when they get burned a couple of times. Like you get a phishing scam, you fall for it, somebody steals your money, you're likely to remember it the next time around, right? However, the problems aren't going to go away. I claim that people as a whole, in general, never learn. So education never works. Education is waste of time and money. People will never learn. We should stop doing it. No matter how many times we tell them, they will always double-click on every attachment and will fall for every scam. Perhaps I'm a bit pessimistic, but after working in this industry for 17 years, that's the one thing I've learned. People don't learn. I'm not saying that we should stop trying to educate them. I guess we should try to educate them. But what I am saying is that we really have to move from the old thinking model where security is a boxed product that you have to go and buy and install and configure and maintain and update, and you have to be an expert and study to get your machine secured. Sure, works for me, works for you, but modern societies are expecting everybody to get online. Everybody from teenage girls to grandmothers. And you